Well, I guess that's it. With an understated announcement by the ESA, arguably the most widely anticipated event on the gaming calendar every year has come to an end. And we really need to talk about it. This is Little Akiba Games. I'm Patrick. Welcome back to the shop. Some of the biggest moments in gaming history have played out on stage at the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3, since its 1995 inception, its lone year in Atlanta before moving to Los Angeles. The event's history is rich with hardware reveals, game announcements, and other industry-redefining news that has made E3 mandatory viewing for anyone with even a passing interest in gaming, let alone those of us who make it our lifestyle. Like with many major annual events, the COVID-19 pandemic forced the ESA to rethink the entire implementation of E3, first by moving the event online before eventually starting to cancel them outright, leaving the industry's various entities to independently organize their large annual presentations for themselves across a broader period of time in the summer. The problem with this is obvious to anyone who experienced E3 live, either in person or from the comfort of their living room. When you disperse the news conferences, you disperse attention. E3 was the one week out of the year where game companies could take for granted that they had the undivided collective attention of the entire gaming public. If you made an announcement at E3 on any given morning, you could safely assume that it would be ubiquitous knowledge by the end of the day. That can't be said for the individual showcases like Sony's State of Play, Microsoft's Developer Direct, Nintendo Direct, although Nintendo has developed a reputation for coming out swinging so hard at this point that they're probably the least affected by this change, and the various third-party events from companies like Capcom, EA, Square Enix, and Ubisoft that have popped up throughout the summer as E3 has given way. Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest is a respectable attempt to preserve the centralized nature of E3, but it's ultimately a failure so long as other platform holders and publishers aren't coordinating their own presentations to land in the same week. So far, there has been little success in getting everyone on the same page, and anything that falls short of that just isn't going to fit the needs of the gaming public, or marketing departments for that matter. Of course, there are other industry unifying events on the calendar, like Gamescom, PAX, and Tokyo Game Show. But none of them have built the presentation chops necessary to get on E3's level, and companies just don't seem to have an appetite for giving any one of these shows their biggest announcements, which inevitably gives them a defined and meager ceiling. A personal anecdote. As this channel rebranded to Little Akiba Games last fall, I took the week of Tokyo Game Show off work in hopes of providing a real depth of coverage of it. I was disappointed when it turned out to be just a bunch of unorganized publisher streams talking about games we already knew about, with not a keynote or big announcement in sight. There was a content reveal here, a DLC reveal there, but I was actively looking for new games to bring to your attention, and I wasn't finding any all week. And I was really working at it. Incidentally, there was at least one announcement, the PlayStation 5 exclusive shmup Tatsujin Extreme, or Truxton Extreme as it will be called if it finds its way across the Pacific. But it never came up in any of my news feeds, and I only found out about it in passing months later when I was researching for another video entirely. So clearly there's a severe news communication problem going on here. Simply put, the game industry needs E3, or something else in the E3 role, much more than it seems to believe. Maybe Jeff Keighley can reach out directly to the ESA to work something out that could at least land the big three platform holder presentations on the same week as Summer Game Fest, and then work from there to get other publishers on board. Maybe we just need a few years of diminished hype across the entire industry to show everyone involved exactly what they sacrificed when the decision was made to scuttle E3 outright. Whatever the case, the industry should acknowledge that its marketing cannot run on all cylinders without an extensive, centralized news event on the calendar that has absolutely all eyes on it. Think about the last time anything happened to make us collectively shout, "Holy shit! That's why we go out of our way to catch Gamescom?" You can't, can you? Because it just hasn't happened yet. If you've been involved in gaming for any meaningful amount of time, the odds are overwhelming that you have your own share of E3 moments that you hold as definitive and foundational experiences in your personal love of gaming, that you probably wouldn't have otherwise had if the presser in question had been on some random weekday afternoon in August, and not part of some centralized battery of media briefings that you can actually plan around. Take a moment to think of your own such moments with E3 and consider how many of them you may not have experienced alongside the rest of the gaming world, or even known about at all, had they not taken place during that consolidated E3 schedule. I can say for certain that my own list is quite extensive at this point. Let me know about yours down in the comments. Perhaps the best example of these moments for an outside observer came during Sony's presentation at E3 2015. In that one show, we got our first truly good look at The Last Guardian, and confirmation of Shenmue 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake, two projects that, at that point, we had no reason to believe were ever going to happen. Regardless of how well or poorly any of these games stuck the landing once they released, and they all took a while, right then and there, they were defining and reaffirming moments in many viewers' love for gaming that could not have happened to the same effect on any smaller stage than that of E3. Now, my feet are so firmly locked to the ground that I absolutely despise romanticizing events with overblown words like magic, and get incredibly irritated when people do exactly that. But there is a certain undeniable aura around E3 reveals that had a very real and tangible effect on their impact. Games announced during E3 presentations were immediately known to the gaming public, and if they had a broadly appealing core concept, had a much higher likelihood of being anticipated by more players simply because of their carefully constructed first impressions. Friends, I can't say for certain what this is going to look like on the sales charts, but I'm anticipating a noticeable industry-wide downturn, particularly in what might be regarded as AA titles that E3 historically won much-deserved attention for. It wasn't just the on-stage presentations, though, and that leads me to what is assuredly the biggest thing missing without E3. If your personal E3 experience had an off year where the major stage presentations just didn't resonate with you, much like I did in 2011, there was a massive swath of show floor titles that could, and assuredly would, pick up the slack. Watching from home, you need only go to any gaming website's E3 newsfeed and look for the latest trailers to be released in conjunction with the event. Order some Chinese takeout, plant yourself in front of the computer, and have fun stacking up your to-buy list for the next year. Now eventually in 2011, when all the platform holders and major publishers had failed me, Dragon's Crown stepped up and gave me something positive to take away from that year's E3, and would have even gone on to be my 2013 Game of the Year had Nintendo not released Fire Emblem Awakening at the time. If it hadn't been for E3, because of everything else that was going on in my life at the time, I'm not even sure Dragon's Crown would have ever found its way into my attention span. Now it's one of my absolute favorite games. Good lord, it's been over a decade since Dragon's Crown and Fire Emblem Awakening. What am I even doing with my life? The game industry, and gamers themselves for that matter, are going to miss E3 whether they realize it right now or not. We don't have a lot of truly unifying events in our medium, and the ones we have left feel like diet versions of what we had just a few years ago. We're always going to exhaustively give Activision, EA, and Ubisoft platforms with which to overpay marketing firms to shove games in our faces to the point that we're sick to death of them before they even launch. What made E3 truly special was that it made sure that you were well fed even if AAA couldn't be further from your tastes. And I worry that the ESA might see this as a correction rather than a problem. What say you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and let's get the dialogue going about it. That's all for now. If you liked this video, then let YouTube know all about it with your likes, comments, shares, and subscribes as we continue this push to 1,000 subscribers in 2024. Click the notification bell to know right away when a new video releases. I look forward to seeing you back here next time at Little Akiba Games.